The bishops of Liverpool of old, during the Thatcher years, wrote a book called Bias to the Poor. Do you think, as the Secretary of State for Education, who introduced a lot of reforms such as the pupil premium, bias towards children in disadvantaged communities, should there be that bias towards the disadvantaged at the heart of public policy?
Absolutely. The whole point of government is to redress the balance. There are some individuals who find themselves automatically through no fault of their own, growing up in homes and in circumstances where their opportunity to contribute is undermined by those circumstances, and we need to be on their side. If there are people who grow up in homes where there isn't the love and the affection and the stability that almost everyone in this room will have enjoyed, then their lives are blighted from the beginning and they're handicapped in the race of life. If there are individuals who later on in life suffer catastrophic events, whether that's the onset of mental illness or an economic shock that their particular part of the world hasn't been insulated from, then we should be on their side, because I think all of us on this panel recognise that there is a unique ability that every individual has to produce something special in their lives. And if we manage to nurture whatever it is that is special in every individual, then all of us lead more blessed lives. And so we've got to think, what is it that we can do to help those who, through no fault of their own, or sometimes even because they've made mistakes and they deserve a second chance, whom we can help in order to be bigger, better contributors to a healthy society.
In your recent prison speech, you quoted Winston Churchill about finding the treasure within every human being, which is what you were just saying. I think.
Yes, I completely agree. I don't think that you can... it's wrong to write anyone off. Everyone deserves to have another opportunity. And one of the things about prison is that, of course, prison is there for people who have committed offences and who've crossed the line, and we need to have a clear line between right and wrong in order to uphold a civilised society. But we shouldn't determine someone's life purely on the basis of one decision that they've made. We shouldn't judge someone on their worst moments. And so, therefore, we shouldn't think of people as offenders. We should think of them as individuals who've got something to offer.
Ian. Ian, when we were setting up the Centre for Social Justice together, one of your priorities, one of the things I know that always made you angry, was the waste of human talent for the unemployment and dependency. I don't need to answer the question, really. You absolutely believe there should be a bias to the vulnerable in public policy.
Well, I do. I completely agree with what Michael said. In fact, the phrase that people shouldn't be written off, I think, is an important one. I think the idea of the second chance, if you remember, a while, many years ago, we launched this whole idea of the second chance. And that started the process of looking at prisons and looking at giving people proper rehabilitation. Getting to kids before they do their second stint in prison means they're less likely to go on to have a career in prison. So that's absolutely vital. But underlying it all is also saying, look, it isn't the state that can deliver all of this stuff. What you've actually got to recognise, if we talked earlier on about the importance of capitalism and the free markets, it's because they do the best redistribution of opportunity. States are not good with opportunity, but the markets are. And what we have to make sure, therefore, is that we don't leave things in the way of people being able to take those choices. They need to be able to get that employment. Otherwise, they can't simply rise out of their condition. As we know, a working family, a family that gets the opportunity to see their parent or parents go out to work to get a job, has a different sense to them. They have a sense of pride. They have a sense of self-worth. They get to believe that this is the way you live your life, that there is a structure to life which gives you an opportunity. They perform better at school because that sense of self-worth is critical. And one of the things I found often going round into different states and talking to people is quite often the group that faces the biggest problem is often young girls in many of these difficult families. And they grow up witnessing abuse and all sorts of difficulties. They grow up, therefore, without any sense of self-worth, believing that everything they have has to be traded against some other thing that they need to give. And I think this is the key thing. So to get through that process, to allow them to grow, needs their families to grow and structure, and for us to be able to help that, but to make sure that those opportunities arise. So it is ultimately through that process that gives them the structure through work. And I'm really strongly in favour of that.
Ruth?
I absolutely believe that that's what government's for, and I think it goes back to the kind of first principle is that why do you even form governments? Is you club together to do things better that you cannot do alone. And whether that's something from, you can't have, everybody as an individual can't have their own army, and we pay into a public purse in order to keep ourselves safe, or whether it's to do with the fact that we help those who can't help themselves, or who need extra help. And I think that we do recognise that as a society, but I think we need to do more of it. And I think we also need to be looking over the horizon a little bit as well, because our country has changed, and it's changed massively. And I think that the structures that Ian has talked about, family structures, structures of identity, and roles within families as well, and roles within society, have changed hugely. And what I understand, and I appreciate, and I applaud actually, the work that the Centre for Social Justice has done, particularly with young women. I think that over the horizon, the big issue for us is actually young men. And it's young men coming from backgrounds where traditionally they would have gone into heavy manufacturing labour or some other form of sort of strong role model within their community, where they would be the provider within their family, they would be able to house themselves, be able to raise children, they would have that sense of self-worth. And we all know these boys. I went to school in Buckhaven, I went to school with lots of them that came out the other end who'd been told by teachers that there was nothing that they were going to go on and do, and that there wasn't opportunities for them. And I think that some of the work that the UK government is doing, particularly in apprenticeships, is good, but it's not enough. I think that some of the work that we're doing in terms of identifying what the next jobs are is good, but it's not enough, because there are still, you see them outside every chicken shop on every high street with their tracky bottoms down below the waistline of their pants. You know exactly the people here who don't see what their future is, and we've not been able to show them a route out of where they come from. And I think that there is a real issue there about building, and it's this idea of self-worth and this idea of becoming more than where you started, the idea of progress, of establishing yourself within your community, establishing yourself and building a family, and using your life as a platform for the life for your children to build on the life of. And I think that that's the really next big challenge that we have in public policy right now, is what do we do with our young men that aren't going to be academic in the future.
I'm conscious you're the only non-Scot on our panel tonight.
McJavid.
Sajid McJavid, what's your answer to the question?
Aye. No, just kidding. If you're not in politics to help the poor and disadvantaged, you shouldn't be in politics. And that applies equally not just to us Conservative politicians on this panel, but I believe actually our political opponents, Labour, Lib Dems, they're all there. They still, their objectives are very similar. They want to help the poor and disadvantaged. I don't doubt that, and I have tremendous respect for that. I think we just disagree on the sort of broad ways in how you can actually do that and make a difference. And that's probably encapsulated by the difference between handouts and hand-ups. And that's what we're rightly very focused on. I think we can do a lot more of that. Michael, when we were in the education department, you focus a lot on changing people's life chances through education, a hand up, as has Ian. In my own department now, for example, when it comes to university entrance, we spend a lot of time and effort and money, resources on how do we make it easier for someone from a troubled background or disadvantaged background. So I think it's actually the only reason to be in politics.